Hi, everyone. I'm Gwen Callahan. I am the co-director of Portland Horror Film Festival. And I am delighted this afternoon we are joined by the filmmakers from Shorts Block 2. We have with us today Sarah Hartman-Nar, from the co-writer and co-producer of Willow and Lydia. And we've got Scott A. Nar, also the director and co-writer of Willow and Lydia. We have Dennis Callow and Bethany Watson from the short Doors. Rollin Stafford from Zombies Like to Watch, Mitch Oliver with The Trunk, Julia Zanin de Paula with Relax with Draco. Mitch Oliver's The Druid's Hand. I'm sorry, it's right in front of my face. And Travis Laidlaw from The Trunk, and Sean Menendez from Midnight Screams. Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for being here with us. How are y'all doing? Good?
Good.
Okay.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Okay. There's so many of you in this action-packed shorts block. I'm just gonna start off. I guess I'll just go around the room and just ask a couple questions of each of you. Sarah and Scott, Willow and Lydia had its world premiere last night.
Yes, it did.
To a packed theater and to much applause. It was very well received.
That's good to hear. Yes, that's great.
It's a beautifully shot film, and it's interesting because there's a lot of quiet space around it, so you really get to kind of sit with the characters and be attentive to what they're saying. Where was this like a story that was really important to you to tell? Because there's a lot going on here with the two women partners, and one being black and one white, and the occult ceremony, and like this urge to be a mother, and like this need to have a baby.
Yeah, I mean, the story actually comes from a feature idea that we came up with the years back. And during the pandemic, we decided, hey, let's like boil it down to a short film. The idea really just came from our love of like folk horror and all things witchy, and also being like a interracial marriage ourselves, like came into play with that too, with the characters and the dynamics. And when it comes to the fertility aspect of it, that kind of just leans into the whole folk horror aspect of it, because a lot of folk horror is attributed with fertility and fertility rights. So we have a passion for that subgenre of horror, so we just kind of leaned into that, and from there just kind of took all those elements and just fused them together, and that's where it came from.
Nice. And so I'm hearing that you had always intended the characters to be an interracial couple.
Yes.
I wouldn't say that we necessarily set out to write like so many things in one short film, but we definitely did intend for Willow and Lydia to always be interracial. We feel like a lot of the characters that we write have relationships as such, just because it's what we know. It's our experience, and that kind of makes it not easier, but just feel like that's a bit more authentic, like when we're telling that there's that kind of story. And then everything else, like Scott said, was just influenced from folk horror and just kind of fell into place. And it's one of those, like, you look back and you're like, oh wow, okay, yeah, we did kind of, there's a lot going on, but it just felt like it developed naturally.
Nice. Can you talk a little bit about Willow's just absolute drive to have a baby, and asking her partner Lydia to try to go through this whole horrific experience of like trying to get pregnant and possibly miscarrying again, because it does seem like there's some underlying tension as well with at least for me, from my point of view as a woman of color who like experiences the world in a slightly different way. It seems like it's a little bit loaded with Lydia being a Black woman and being asked to subjugate her needs and desires in service of her wife's needs and desires.
Yeah, for sure. That is definitely there. Pretty much I worked very closely with our lead actress, Lacey Buchanan, and we were just trying to like kind of figure out together like where this desperation comes from. And I wrote like backstories for all the actors to read. I can't remember any of them right now, but I mean, I remember the gist, but like in depth, I can't remember. But pretty much like the character of, Willow, like she comes from a pretty affluent background and kind of expected life to go a certain way, and it, kind of didn't in some respects. And there is that element of subjugation of Willow. We didn't set out to really do that at first. I'm not gonna lie, we didn't really set out to make it like more of a racial thing, but it became that in that specific aspect of like her like saying like, hey, I want a baby and you're gonna give me this whether you want it, like it or not. Because the original idea was that she's just desperate, and then in the film, as you see, she just kind of has like a mental break, and just like we see it in the scene when they're hugging in the living room, and or at least that's what we were trying to portray, like something tweaks in her brain, and then she like decides to do this desperate act in order to have this kid. And I think, in a way, like I'm okay with it, with that racial aspect of it in there, because that is like a statement in of itself, but I think it was a little bit more unintentional. But hey, it's there. So yeah. Sarah, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say in terms of like the statement, the intent, the more intentional statement I would say is about like what it means to be a woman and how you find your worth as a woman. And I think that's a lot of what the character of Willow is going through, and like feeling like she's this stay-at-home mom or wants to be a stay-at-home mom, and feels like if she can't achieve this dream, she can't achieve this goal, then what does that mean for her as a woman? She feels like she's failed, and so she's willing to go through any measures necessary, no matter how crazy, to kind of get to that. And I think it does kind of lend itself into that subjugation of Lydia. And then it's like, it doesn't matter, no matter, there's this kind of disconnect between any sort of feeling or awareness of what the impact of her actions and her desires are. And I think that's pretty poignant in our society, particularly, with white women, and even inside of allyship, just this kind of like single-mindedness and not really being aware of the impact that we're having on others. So I feel like that kind of played into it for sure. But that feeling of not being worthy enough and not being a true woman unless she can be a mother is definitely what we were trying to play up.
Okay, well, I mean, all of that definitely came through. Like, it's all there on the screen, and the performances were wonderful. Like, it really, really got the essence of Willow and of Lydia. So it's very nicely done. I wish you could have heard all the applause for it.
I wish I could have. Yeah, we wish we could have been there too. That would have been great. All good though, all good, as long as it happens.
Yeah. So I'm gonna bounce over to Dennis and Bethany. I don't know how this shows up for everyone else, but they're kind of in order for me. So I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, we're kind of like the Brady Bunch right here.
Yeah, yeah. There's like a whole. For me, Mitch is in the middle, so. He's the
Mitch is in the middle for us too. I think we are all sort of in order.
Yeah, there you go. So Dennis and Bethany, your short Doors is this lovely example of independent short film making with like using what you have around you. Can you talk a little bit about like the idea for this short film and then how you accomplished it with with all the doors? Is that apartment that has like 20 doors in it?
So yeah. So first, I just want to say we are an alumni, so we showed with Lonely Hearts last year, and we were so psyched to go this year when we heard about Doors, and then we had a setback here, and we're so disappointed we can't be there in person. We wish we could be there tonight to see it with you guys, and we just want to thank you both, Gwen and Brian, for having us back. That's a huge deal for us, because not a lot of festivals had us back for Doors, but you guys were one of them. So we're really grateful, first and foremost. Bethy, you want to take over this? Because this was basically like, what could we do with just the two of us?
Yeah, we wanted to have our COVID baby film. And, I think that everybody during COVID was like, gotta make something. And I read a review for another COVID film, and the reviewer was like, "Welp, it's another film with not many actors during COVID." And I'm like, "Yes, because that is what we're doing right now." So I live in that apartment we shot in. When I first moved in, I noticed that there were so many doors. And I was like, we need to use these somehow, especially because the door, the door that she initially hears the sound in should lead to the bathroom. But if you notice, she goes around to the other side and there's no door on the other side. And that is something that my architect landlords don't remember doing. But there's like a secret room or something behind this door that has no corresponding door. And so there's just something inherently creepy about having an apartment with so many entryways.
Yeah. And you had that idea,
Yeah.
and then I was listening to the podcast Let's Not Meet like on repeat. Like I was just binging it, and it's a great podcast. And I was getting really freaked out about stories with unexpected knocking. And I always thought, I was like, what a great, that's really scary when someone is just, you're not expecting anyone and you just hear that like, and you're like, what is that? And so I was like, let's play with the doors and something being behind it, but she never can really see it, but it's constantly chasing her through the apartment.
Yeah.
So it just was just kind of like, she was like, I want to do something with these doors. We have two of us and a lot of equipment and we're sitting around doing nothing.
So we did it.
So we did it.
I mean, Dennis did everything. He lit it, he shot it, he directed it, he did
I
everything.
screamed, I cried.
Screamed.
I know, and also like we wanted to do something without dialogue, and also we wanted to do something that wasn't funny because Lonely Hearts was a comedy horror, and we were like, let's do something scary because we were on the horror festival circuit for that for a year, and I was seeing all these scary movies. I'm like, we should do something like scary.
Yeah. So we just, it took us 2 weekends to shoot, and we pushed through it.
Yeah.
That's how we did it.
Oh my goodness.
It's a lot for a 4-minute film, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, there's a lot going on in that 4-minute film. There's just like, it's so frenetic that it's really exciting to watch it. Well, that's amazing. I'm just amazed, like, because basically I was like, one of them must live there. I'm like, who lives in an apartment? Like, who built this apartment that looks like it should be like a broom closet for everybody else in the building.
Yeah, I know. I know.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah, it's a very odd apartment. And there's actually one door we didn't use. There's like another door in that apartment that didn't get featured. So there's a lot.
And I was also wondering, like, how much furniture did they have to move out of the way? Because if I would not have any.
The funniest thing is, if you just turned the camera a little bit to the left, you
everything is stacked. There's just like chairs upside down, and there's clothes and everything. Like the bed is here, and everything is here and down, just shoved.
There's this one shot that took us like it was like 6.5 hours to shoot, and I literally like I went through and I barely missed all of the detritus that was on the side, that was to the left.
Everything,
so it was
everything.
A challenge. Yeah, it was a challenge, but it was fun. It was fun.
Awesome. Well done, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rollin Stafford, you are also a festival alumni with last year you did Zombie Walk.
Yeah.
Gave us a glimpse of downtown Portland through all the smoke from the fires, the wildfires, and like the protests and all that stuff.
Thank you so much for letting me open the festival last year.
We thought it was important for people to see what it was actually like here. Like it was on fire, but not for the reasons they thought. So zombies like to watch. This film did not go where we thought it was going to go, and in a really good way. I laughed a lot during it. How did you come up with this idea of a woman with an ex-boyfriend who happens to be a zombie who gets off like watching her getting off with other guys?
Well, it's like I would say slightly autobiographical. It was based on an incident I had a long time ago, and I thought, oh, that'd make a good short story or film. And yeah, it's all based on truth, except for the zombie bit for the most part.
Okay.
It really happened to me. Yeah.
The zombie makeup is really wonderful.
Thank you.
I think I saw some behind the scenes shots of it, but Is it was it like applied piece by piece and like?
Yeah, that was a prosthetic done by the wonderful Kenneth Calhoun, who is originally from LA, but he mostly works on Marvel films, but wanted to branch out. And he's worked with me before. And I said, "You want to come work on the short film?" He's like, "As long as you pay for my plane ticket, I'll do whatever, whatever." I was like, "Okay, great." So I got this guy who works, for a lot more than I paid him for like 2 days, and he was wonderful. He's a great, great guy. Yeah.
Nice. And I really loved the actress and the actor, the virgin and the
Yeah.
girl bringing him home. They were really wonderful.
There are two wonderful actors I happened to meet last year when I joined the Actors Lab in Portland. There were two actors in my acting class, and I thought, why hasn't anyone discovered these two amazing people yet? And I brought them on board, and they have been friends for years, and their chemistry was, as you saw, was great. So yeah, I'm very proud of that. Very little directing on that part.
Nice. And the actor who played the zombie.
Yes, Zach Smith, who also played the zombie in Zombie Walk. So he's being typecast a bit, and I've never cast him as anything else. And I just finished directing a feature film where I cast him again as a zombie, and I promised this would be the last time. I wouldn't make him go through all the makeup ever again. This is good. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. His comedic timing was great.
Oh, Zach was wonderful. He's hilarious. Yeah.
His ability to convey, things with the
No,
no word.
we went through it. We talked a lot about it, how he wanted to sound, what movements he wanted to do. He's very limited because he's stuck in that cage the entire time. And the original script had him chained up to a wall. And then I found this cage. Like, what if we put him in a cage so he can't do anything and just lower him even more to keep your ex-boyfriend in a cage who is also a zombie, but though he can't move around at all. But,
Yeah, really, really excellent. Like some good solid horror comedy. I love it.
Thank you. Good.
Was that uncomfortable? How long did he have to be in that cage? Was that uncomfortable for him?
Oh, he didn't complain at all. It took about 2.5 hours for the makeup, and he did it. We shot the thing in 2 days, but he was a trooper. He didn't complain at all, as long as he got smoke breaks. That's
Okay. Awesome. I'm gonna hop over to Mitch Oliver with the Druid's Hand. Talk about this. I was gonna say peach of a film, but that's not really quite the right word. This movie is intense and a little heavy. It's got some overtones of Catholic Inquisition kind of things going on. Tell us a little bit about the background of the film and the story, because we kind of come in on the two characters in the middle of trying to, what I assume is like some kind of exorcism or ritual to banish a demon, and then things happen. But I'm curious about the relationship between the two men, and their mission. Like, where did that mission come from? And is their town just overrun with demons?
Yeah, we first of all, thank you so much for having me, and I'm so proud to be playing this is our first short film, the first film I've ever directed. So it means a lot to be playing this festival alongside all of you. And basically the film was created, I wrote it with my co-writing partner Jesse Sawitsky. We were both from city Saskatoon in Saskatchewan in Canada. And during the time that we kind of came up with this idea near the end of the COVID lockdown, and we just were really eager to do something creative. And we both have been massive horror fans our entire life, and we knew that we wanted to create a horror film with the landscape that we had access to, which was this small town in Saskatchewan called Alvina, and they have a population of about 75 people. And they really rallied behind us and helped us get this thing made. But like you said, it does come from a lot of, I'm very attracted to like religious and theological horror. It's always been something that's been very effective to me. Some of the films that have had such a long lasting impact on me were films that fall into that category. I was raised religious in a Catholic home, and I went to Catholic schools my entire life. And during leading up to the time of us shooting this and creating the story, there was a lot of really unfortunate and dark and brutal news about Canada's past. And it was something that made us angry and inspired in a weird way, because it drove us to want to make something really mean that would reflect the anger we were feeling. And we were lucky enough to lock down an actual 100-year-old Catholic church for a set. And so it was a big deal to us to be able to utilize that building to represent essentially what was the dangers of misinformation and conspiracy and people who try and cover up or erase their horrid pasts and dodge accountability. And it was very important to us to make this a mean and vicious little film, but we didn't have a lot of money or resources, and it just seemed like the right step for my first film, and it just kind of all came out naturally. And I don't know what that says about myself.
I So this is your first film that you've directed, but you've worked on other films, correct? It's just your first foray into film, period.
This is my first foray. Like, I had worked as a PA for a couple days on like friends' music video shoots and stuff like that, but it was near the end of COVID that I decided, like everyone else, you get bored and you kind of are stuck with your own thoughts, and you have to really face yourself. And it's always been my dream to make films. And I know, as corny as that sounds, but I ended up deciding that I wanted to, quit my job. I was a plumber for 6 years. So it couldn't be further away from, doing what I really wanted to do. So I made the decision to make a short film and pack my bags and move to Vancouver, Canada, where I am now living. Thank you. Yeah, I'm living in Vancouver and working in the film industry and happier than ever. But it's just this film was really the first huge stepping stone, and it really made me feel like I'm on the right path. And it's just tremendous, the experience.
It's a beautiful looking film. Like the look and feel and your color grading and lighting and shots and everything are really, really excellent.
Thank you.
One thing that stood out for me was the effects that you did for the portrayal of the demon with that dark skin and the glowy eyes. Is that something? Can you talk about that a little bit? The effects?
Yeah, well, as a massive horror fan, one of the things that I love most about horror is makeup effects and practical effects. We managed to fit in quite a few practicals here, and then some that we ended up utilizing some VFX. And but it was really, really important to me to try and make something creepy. And essentially this demon that we resurrect is the body of a witch that's been burnt at a stake, and she kind of personifies all of the evils that these two have enacted on their community. And I know we did leave a lot of things very vague, and I think that some people are going to be confused by that, and rightfully so. Like I said, first film, so I already see all the things that I want to do differently next time. But we really wanted to pack a full story into a short, which you're not supposed to do, and now I see why. We had Gabrielle Buckles, who is this dancer. She's a competitive dancer in Saskatoon, and she's also a huge horror fan and a very small body that could do some really creepy things with her joints. And she also would cost less to cover head to toe in makeup. So that was a big bonus having her. But we just basically wanted to make a scorched corpse.
So the scorched stuff was mostly practical.
Yeah, that was all practical.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting that this year I feel like most of the effects that we're seeing in people's films are practical rather than digital. And it's like this, I don't know if it's backlash against digital effects or if it's just like people wanting to get back to like the tactile feeling of the practical effects, but it's incredible.
Yeah, I can only speak for myself, but I feel like it was a lot of wanting to be like, everything feels so out of your control when you're handling just a small budget, small amount of money. You want to be able to try and do things as best as you can on your own and not have to worry about, like, at that point we didn't even know we'd be able to find a visual effects artist or anything. So all of the visual effects that we have in it were, a gift. Like, I'm certainly not against visual effects, but I'm happy that we did primarily practical throughout it.
There's some moments like when she's like, and there's like the things, was that practical with like some digital enhancement?
Yeah, that was both. That was it was a practical effect that didn't turn out as well as we wanted it to, but it still, kind of got the point across, and just having some minor VFX touch-ups to it helped a lot in our opinion. So yeah, it's a scene that she essentially wakes up and is trying to breathe for the first time again. It's like her heart just starts beating again, and she essentially coughs up all the ashes that her stomach has turned to from being set on fire at a stake. It's a feel-good movie.
As I was gonna say. Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for making this movie. We can't wait to see what you do next. And we're like happy that you're here with us on the Q&A. So,
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
God, that's incredible. Like, I mean, those effects are just, they look so good, and it makes sense that they're practical. So good choice.
Awesome. Thank you.
I'm gonna bounce over to Julia Zanin de Paula. I had to learn how to say that. So how are you, Julia?
I'm great. How are you?
Thank you for joining us. And are you in New York or Brazil, or where are you right now?
I'm a Brazilian living in New York.
Okay.
I just want to say thank you so much for organizing this Q&A. It's so important for us to talk about our movies. Some festivals don't organize it, and I'm so glad to be hearing about everybody's movie. I'm super inspired and excited to watch everything. So thank you so much.
Welcome. For us too, it's important that we get to interact with the filmmakers, and the audience gets to see you and like see who made this film that they're enjoying, and to understand that you guys are all artists and you're just doing this out of, like, most people aren't making $1 million off their short film, but they're, doing it to exercise their creative muscles and to create something for us. So we appreciate it. So your film, Relax with Draco, is kind of a horror comedy. And it's really funny for me because I listen to a lot of podcasts when I'm doing like work with my hands and things like that. And I just loved the voiceover. So there's a voice actor that does the podcast. And is this based on a podcast that you have listened to, or is it just kind of what you're imagining it would be like?
Oh, so the story behind the script is a little long. In the beginning, we were supposed to shoot an 8A meeting, but for vampires that are quitting blood.
Okay.
But then COVID hit. We couldn't really put 10 actors in one space. And as everybody here, we had to adapt, and we wanted to shoot something in the same universe of this like vegan vampires. And the first idea, not the first, one of the ideas we had was like, what if like he's trying to adhere to a podcast while calming himself down to not bite somebody? And then this very, very short, very indie, very, very low budget script came to life. And yeah, we ended up shooting it. I think we're shooting the AA meeting for vegan vampires very soon. As like with the kind of the same character, and maybe even the podcast host. We'll see. So that's how the idea came to life. Like our idea was to talk about addiction and how one can overcome it, but all the difficulties you have and all the things you face throughout your life. So it's not just about vampires, I guess. And we wanted to tell that story. We wanted to do something fun and something interesting and shoot a vampire story. So that's how, when I say we, I mean me and the actor, which is also the writer, Caleb Wells. So that's basically the inspo around it.
Nice. And I noticed that your vampire is okay with the sunlight.
Yes. He's always in the shadow though, if you notice. He's never in the sun,
He's not in direct sun. Okay.
never in direct sun. We did think of a world where vampires are okay being out, because in this world, we're actually writing a whole like web series around this character that is trying to quit blood and is a hipster in Brooklyn. And in this world, we needed him to be a barista and do normal human things. And that means that our vampires are okay with a little bit of sunlight, not direct.
Okay. Yeah, because he has to work the morning shift for people going to get their coffee. I loved the actress with her bike and her just like, hey man, are you gonna help me fix this now? I'm like, no, I'm good. And he's like, no, it's like the whole mansplaining, like, I actually work in a bike shop. Turned against him. I love that dynamic. And was she also someone that you know, or did you find her through other channels?
She's somebody that has worked with Caleb before, and we wrote the character based on her. So a lot of that vibe, a lot of that Queen's girl vibe is already there. And yeah, she was lovely to work with. And I think as a character that was just inciting that addiction to Victor in a way. Yeah.
Well, really, really nice. I love it that it was just like short and sweet and it kind of had a little emotional journey or a character arc for the, I guess we don't know his name.
Victor.
Victor. Okay, the character, the vampire. So yeah, like, thank you so much for making that. We look forward to seeing more of your stuff, and like, let us know what's happening with your web series and all that stuff. And oh yeah, another funny thing was like when she's the mirror on the sidewalk and like he's a nice touch too.
We weren't sure if people were gonna understand that shot, but we left it in anyways. I think most people that are fans of vampires got that shot.
Well, I think from the beginning when it's announced that the podcast is Relax with Draco, I'm like, oh, this guy's a vampire. I kind of had that thought immediately.
Know that he was a vampire before that?
Well, like when he's listening to the podcast, I mean, he's kind of pale, but like, Brooklyn hipster with his beanie hat. So that's fun. So I was kind of, you look for cues like, oh, well, they're showing us this mirror for a reason. So that it worked in my head anyway. I'm gonna bounce over to Travis Laidlaw now for the trunk. Hello, Travis. This film is wow, it has a lot going on. I'm always amazed at how much people can pack into a 15 or 16-minute short film. And so in your film, I'm assuming a father and daughter are out in the woods, and they're taking home something in the back of their truck, and it turns out to be this creepy ass trunk that's like chained up. And this is interestingly not the only film this year that we've seen that has this motif in it. All the films are very different in their, kind of how the story unfolds in the point, but I think there was 6 or 7 films this year that we got. We are not playing all of them, but with a central figure of a trunk that's chained up, and people either uncovering it or opening it when they shouldn't, and things like that. Is this idea something that's been rolling around in your head for a little while? Do you feel like something that you caught out of the collective unconscious?
I think, just like it's been brought up earlier, a lot of us in COVID, we're sitting around at home looking at all the stuff in our house and the things we have access to and getting stir crazy and looking to make a project without, having a million people and going out into the world. So that trunk I've owned for years. It's like a family heirloom that I have that's gone down through the generations. So I've been looking at it for years and years and years, thinking I need to make something with this. And that's literally how it started. Just being at home, having a house, thinking, what can I shoot here, and with this trunk, and that's it. So I imagine a lot of people did the same thing. They probably owned a trunk or something like that, and wrote a story around it.
Nice. So with your film, there are some amazing special effects and visual effects in it, in addition to like just amazing performances. The most notable effects shot that I can think of is in like outside the bathroom when after firing the shotgun at her, what turns out to be her father. So everyone should have watched these short films already. So these aren't these shouldn't be spoilers for them. But yeah, like that moment where like, oh God, she's like, you just know something's gonna go wrong. But then when you see it and you see what's happened to his face, is just like really viscerally gut wrenching. And I'm fascinated by how you guys accomplish these things. So tell me how the effects work on that, with his eyeball being down here and like
Lots of makeup.
okay.
Yeah, he needed a. We did a head cast a couple months earlier, just to be able to add on to his face so that we could then subtract half of his face in a believable way that wasn't just looking like stuff added on to him. So it's just our special effects makeup artist, Ron DeCostin, just did an awesome job. I mean, it took a long time. I think his makeup was 4 or 5 hours, and then the witch character was another one that was like 6.5, 7 hours, basically in makeup all day. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, she looks fantastic too. And I'm always amazed by people who are that tiny. Like, is that like how much of that is just their natural physical person? And did you do any digital enhancements to those?
I did some digital enhancements to her, the witch character, just the eyes. She couldn't, just due to eye condition, she couldn't wear contacts, and I don't blame not wanting to wear those. They're terrible. So the eyes, and added just a bit of, there's like one shot where you see her legs that I hadn't anticipated showing, but on the day decided to. So I did some post veins and stuff on that, but it's such a quick shot you don't notice. But I needed similarly a small person to play this sort of witch character, because I needed them to come in and out of this trunk, and the trunk's not huge, but I didn't want it to really look like someone was hunching, because it's supposed to be sort of like a long portal into some hellscape or whatever. So size, she was a petite woman, so I think it played well.
Worked out. I was wondering if there was actually a person coming out and was like, did he cut the bottom out of his heirloom trunk?
Well, actually, so I shot the trunk itself was just a plate of the trunk.
Oh.
And I had built like a green wall thing that was much bigger that she could hide behind and come up over. So I composited the two together to make that final shot.
Okay, that makes more sense. Movie magic. But yeah, the father and the daughter, like getting the actress, was it hard to get her to like slap the actor? Or was she pretty game?
No, she was game. He was less game. No. They were great. They were great. I had worked with her before on another short, and I saw her. She had just before that done a TV show for Discovery Plus called Haunted Museum that Eli Roth and Zach Baggins did.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very similar role for her. And she was, a friend of mine had directed that, and I asked to see it, and she was screaming away, and she just emoted fear and everything great. So she was game. She's a teenager. She was down kind of for everything. So,
so excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't know, from the get-go, it's very exciting to watch, and you really like don't.
Yeah, it's it's kind of, I mean, it's very simple origin. It's just literally having the trunk. And then one of my favorite movies is Army of Darkness, and just the scene where Ash gets sucked into the Necronomicon in the cemetery scene. That's kind of what spawned this whole idea. It's a trunk instead of a Necronomicon.
Okay, nice. I was going to ask you if you had any kind of film influences on the aesthetics or.
Yeah. I mean, Evil Dead was kind of a big one. Originally, I planned for it to be a little more in your face like that. I slowed it, got a little bit moodier, and I tend to draw things out a little bit. I'm happy with the result. It's somewhere in the middle.
Oh, on the witch character, it looked like there was like writing on her face. Is that something we're supposed to be able to see?
Yeah,
or read?
yeah. It was just one of those. Well, not really. I mean, I don't want to say that if the makeup artist is watching this, it was just an added detail. It was something we came up with kind of last minute. Like, you know, I like keeping things vague and ambiguous and hinting at larger worlds. Hence, never like going into the trunk, but just seeing that endless tunnel and whatnot. So I never wanted to be specific about who this character was or why she was locked up in a trunk or whatever. So I just wanted to put a bunch of hints to larger mythologies. So whether she was a witch that was caught and interred in this trunk, and these are just incantations that herself or other people have put on her. Who knows?
That was my thought.
Yeah, just an
my
added.
thinking is if you find a trunk in the woods that's like chained up and buried, just leave it alone.
Well, I think there's two people. There's two types of people in the world. There's, if you found a trunk chained up in the woods, there's the people that are like, nope, not touching this thing, let's get out of here. Or there's the people that are like, there must be something valuable inside, or I'm just curious. So that's what the father and daughter were in this case.
I'm with the daughter. I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that's chained up to keep something in, but I'm also, fond of things like Dark Shadows, where the coffin is chained to keep the vampire from getting out. So,
right. Yeah, a bit of both in this case.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much.
No
I'm
problem.
gonna move on to Sean Menendez with Midnight Screams. Hi, Sean. So Midnight Screams is this beautiful slice of like, I would want to see this in a drive-in and as a feature-length film. Talk to us about kind of where this came from and what your not your point, but like, is it part of a larger work or is it just a short film?
Yep, it's definitely part of a larger work that I hope to one day be able to do. I've always been a fan of anthologies and stuff like that, and just the construction of it all. And this is like 6 years in the making so far. But yeah, I mean, I had this thing with monster movies, and I when someone's like, "What type of movies do you like?" I'm like, "Horror movies." And like, "What genre?" I'm like, "Well, I love monster movies." And they're like, "You love monster movies? What's your favorite?" And then it always blanks, and I'm just like, that one's good, but the story's kind of or this one, the effects are not that great, but the story's good. There's all this bouncing around, like, it's just B movie monster stuff. But I don't know. After just thinking about that for a minute, I was like, I think it's time for me to make my monster movie and put the things that I'd really want to see in a monster movie. So that was kind of the jumping off point. And then just watching a ton of anthologies not too long after that was just like, I kind of want it to be a couple more stories, but intertwined, something like, what is it? What was the word? Trick or Treat and Pulp Fiction-y. Love Tarantino. But yeah, that's for the bigger feature. But for this little one that you guys will see hopefully later, is just the first like 10 minutes of the film. But it's just really to set up that this is like a classic monster movie. Then right after that, we're going to completely change it and be like, now this is what we're really going to tell you, but we'll give you the goods right up front. So yeah, that's how we went about it. And yeah, I love that you said you want to see this at a drive-in, because I love the drive-in. So I guess that kind of went into it too.
Oh, it has that feeling of, there's like the couple in the car, and there's like the monster that comes out, and the friend on the CB radio. It's just got all the good elements in there. If you had to describe your monster to someone who hasn't seen your film, like how would you describe it?
I mean, the simplest way is a demon. But it's a her, and it's a mother, actually. She's a protector. None of that is in this short. So that's why it's kind of hard to say what this is, because there's so much to this. I went to Comic-Con and met up with Tim Vigil, who did some he does Faust. If you guys are familiar with that. But we knew him through a friend, and I wanted him to do some concept art for this creature. And I don't know, there's so much to this creature, it's ridiculous. But since it was a short and it was COVID and we had to keep things very simple and not and condense, it just basically for this became just a demon that they happen to run into. There were some things of the film that we wanted to put in there, like its jaw extending and snapping all the way back and flat, and screams, and maybe a couple fingers sticking out, some really weird stuff. But we couldn't pull that off yet. So this is just your basic monster, I would say. But the look, is something you're kind of familiar with but haven't seen a little bit. So hopefully we balance that out for you guys.
It was what came to my mind was I'm like, oh my God, it's a big possum monster, because possum freaky looking.
Yeah.
That's just because the long head and it's just uncanny. I like it.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, and bloody. I love all the blood. So like,
oh
lots
yeah,
of blood
there
and
was
guts.
no shortage of that, and it was ridiculously cold every single night we were out there doing blood. And when they heard that there was more blood to come and we had to do some like extra stuff, I was just like, I'm sorry guys, I am ridiculously cold right now, and I know you must be just losing your mind. I mean, the blood would cake up on them so much that they'd be stiff, just right out of trying to peel themselves off the seats of the car and everything. It's so much fun. Not fun to park that car though, because everyone looked at it and they were like, no. So that was my job every night, parking the car. So yeah, my clothes suffered just as much as the actors. Not as cold though, so I'll take that. But
oh my goodness, where did you find that car? Because that's a big car too.
Yeah, both cars. I love old cars, 70s, 80s stuff, mainly 70s. But yeah, we found them on OfferUp, believe it or not. Since COVID hit and we were trying to make our thesis film for FSU, we had this opportunity of an extension on time and just to really work. So I had like 6-7 months prior to shooting this. So I mean, I was just constantly every day OfferUp, going to all these places around Florida looking for the perfect car. And it just so happened we met this guy at a dealership who's had this car sitting around for like 3+ years. His son didn't want to get rid of it, but I knew the right price, so that was that thing. And it was a crazy day because just selling the car, the son did not want to sell it. So he purposely would pop the hood and he'd start showing us how to drive it. The hood flew back up, almost slamming into the windshield and all this. And we're driving still. I'm like, yo, chill, calm, like he's like, oh, you want the car still? Da, 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 da. And we're like, yeah, we do, but stop the car, please. So he was really trying to let us, scare us away. But we were getting that bad boy. There was no way we were gonna walk away with it without it. So that was too much. Yeah.
Wow. Like, so the hood flew up like in
Oh
Amityville.
yeah. Like the hood, like driving, the hood just went whoop like
Oh.
that, completely blocked our view. We're out in the middle of the road just cruising. You know, this battery in the front is like jangling. And I'm just like, we're gonna die. We're gonna die before we make this film. Someone's just gonna document this, and that's gonna be what we turn in. But yeah, that's how it worked out. So yeah.
Well, that is lovely. So have you saved that car to use in the feature length project? Or are you trying to-
Unfortunately, we could not. Sorry, but yeah, we could not save that bad boy.
Ah,
We had to get rights for the music and everything. So yep, that's what bought our music. So
so
you
funded.
know it back. Yeah, but it was not fun cleaning it though. I'll say that that was the worst part because no one wanted to help clean that, and I was just sitting there for about 3 days straight, just scrubbing 1,000 paper towels and all this crap on the side. Later, you got a car surprisingly very little blood in it, and when you watch the film and you see how much sprays out,
Yeah.
I'm still shocked that we got it that clean to sell, because I mean, selling it was also a whole nother thing. When you see blood in the car as soon as you open the door, like, hey, you want to give it a test drive? Blood spills right underneath the freaking door, and you're like, yeah, I won't be seeing you much longer. Same thing with the F-100 for the Ford. We smashed the windshield completely out for the film, of course. It couldn't run. It had blood all over it, and somehow that was the first one to sell. That took like 3 days, and I don't even want to know what they plan on doing with that. But yeah, you got some interesting buyers too, I guess. So that was fun.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, we should probably wrap up so that all of you can go on with your days and that we can get over to the theater. But I want to go around and do a lightning round of what's your favorite horror movie and where do we find you and your film on social media? So Sarah, go first.
Okay, I think my favorite horror movie, so hard. Okay, it's my favorite, but like not my favorite. My favorite that I can think of right now, and Scott's probably gonna get mad because I might steal his, but I'm gonna go with The Witch. And other than that, where can you find, I believe our film is, you can find us on social media. Our Instagram is @SuperAstraFilms, or you can follow just me if you want to see mostly pictures of the cat and also some information about our films @officialsaranar. Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you. Scott, how about you? What's your favorite?
I would say my favorite film is favorite horror film is probably Rosemary's Baby. Second is The Witch. And if you want to see more, she already mentioned our film company Super Astra @SuperAstra on Instagram, or you could also follow my Instagram as well, which is kind of linked to that Instagram. It's Scott Alexander _ my last name Nar NAAR, and as in Nancy AAR. Yeah.
Dennis and Bethany.
Can I do a tie? Is that acceptable?
Sure, I'll allow it.
Okay. Black Sunday and The Beyond. Those are like I gotta have those like at least once a year. And I'm at Dennis Callow pretty much on anything. DennisCallow.com. What's your favorite?
I think it's also probably a tie. I love Halloween 3 Season of the Witch.
Yes.
I think it's
yes.
we bonded over that.
I made her watch it. I was like, you gotta see this. It's even better because Michael Myers isn't even in it.
And I think John Carpenter's The Thing is also like a pretty perfect movie. And you can find me on Instagram @Ms. Bethany Watson is where I mostly am.
And where's your website?
Oh, BethanyWatson.com.
Sorry, we almost burned ourselves down.
Yeah,
too.
we had a fire.
That's why we kept going. I had my coffee mug warmer here, and there was paper on it.
Things started flaming, so flames inside of my face, but we're
sorry. Thanks, guys.
Roland, how about you? What's your favorite horror movie and where do we find you and your movies?
It's also a tie for me since everyone's doing that. I got to go with Carpenter's The Thing and Kubrick's The Shining. Can't go wrong with either of those two. And you can find just me on Instagram, just at Rollin Stafford, or my website, rollinstafford.com.
Okay. Mitch Oliver, how about you?
I'm doing the tie as well. I think it's slightly because a lot of people, for some reason, still say that Jaws isn't a horror movie. So I'm just saying Jaws is my favorite movie of all time. But lots of people, for the people who don't consider that a horror movie, the film that really inspired The Druid's Hand is The Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1974. So yeah, those are a couple of favorites. I also love The Witch. Shout out all of you. But yeah, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Druid's Hand. And if you want to follow me personally, I'm Mitch.Oliver_, because there's a lot of Mitch Olivers out there. So
good.
Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. Julia.
Okay, my favorite horror movie right now, because it changes all the time, is Goodnight Mommy. Is a Austrian movie that is super eerie, super creepy, so good, so well made. Oh, we say no.
I walked out of the theater. I couldn't. I'm sorry. It was so hard to watch.
It's very creepy. I love it though. It's so well made. And you can find me at i.julia on Instagram, or reachingjulia.com, my website.
Excellent. And Travis.
Okay. I'm going to pick a couple as well. I'm going to say favorite modern horror movie is probably Hereditary. Fun horror, Army of Darkness, and I'm going to add one more that influenced me a lot since child. I watched it probably too young, but was the original Haunting, 1963. I think that's the scariest movie there is, minus the goofy intro stuff. But once they get to the house, it's terrifying.
Agreed. And where can people find you on social media?
TravisLaidlaw.com or at Shastman on Instagram.
Awesome. Sean Menendez.
So for my double feature of choice for any drive-in, I'd have Creepshow and Evil Dead 2. There you go. Those would be a solid pair up. You could find me just at Sean Menendez 1 on Instagram. Everything Midnight Screams is on there. I do nothing for me and all for the film. So that's why I don't have any separate account for it. But yeah, there you go.
Excellent. Thank you all so much for being here. I love your horror picks. It reminds me I need to have a refresher watch of some of them. And everyone go follow them on social media. People can jump on the Discord server, which is bit.ly/PHFF Discord. And you can log on there, and there are different chat rooms for all of the shorts blocks. And if you have questions, you guys check in and leave questions for the filmmakers. Filmmakers, you can answer people and have conversations and ask other filmmakers questions too. The festival continues streaming through July 6th, which is Wednesday. So if you need to catch up on anything that you missed or grab a ticket for something that you didn't know was happening, go to portlandhorror.eventive.org, and we will see you later. Thanks all so much for joining us.